you yell from the other room to turn something on and have it not work. And now you're frustrated as you.
Yeah, they're erring on the line on that side. Because how often does it really? It should. Here's the thing, though. I've heard people say that they were listening to an episode on the Echo and then saying the trigger word triggered it to do the thing. And I'm like, it should know that that's coming from itself, shouldn't it? Anyway, yeah, you're right. It's all next-gen stuff.
Yeah. How much do we want to spend on Twitter/Fine?
We can spend a little bit of time. I think the other top stories are a little shorter. We might go down a rabbit hole with groceries. I don't know. And then we've got
I'm an unrepentant Amazon Fresh customer.
We've got quite a bit of set aside for Apple. I don't know that we'll use it all, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think that there's a good larger conversation of their strategy versus touchscreen.
Yeah, but usually I'm like, ooh, we're gonna have 15 minutes, 20 minutes on this. I don't know that we'll hit that. No, the only other thing we have is pick of the day, so we can stretch a little on Twitter because there's a lot to talk about there.
Well, and again, it almost, man, we gotta. Speaking of the memes, man, we gotta codify the Twitter of the week, like, you know, just the what in the hot hell is going on with Twitter?
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, let's get going. We got a lot to do here.
Cool. Let me hide.
Are you good? All right. Jeff Beard, take it away.
This show is brought to you by audience members like me, not outside organizations. To find out more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
Hey folks, this is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, October 27th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt, Justin Robert Young alongside, giving you color commentary to your technology life.
Yeah, with underlining a colorful speech that will bring the tech maybe a little bit more to the forefront of your life.
Twitter comes to the plate. Twitter, of course, began with two different founders. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm trying out new taglines here and there.
Okay.
October fever, you know, baseball fever's got me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you want to do, like a 30-second a World Series recap, two games in the books?
I mean, no. I mean,
okay.
Moving there was one team that was good. One game.
One game. Yeah.
Is that what you're after? We have a lot of Cleveland and Chicago people in the audience.
No, I know. It's actually been like I'm rooting for a good game. Like I watched the full game yesterday, and which is pretty rare for baseball these days. But
I'm rooting for Cleveland.
Well, that's safe to say, right?
But you know, in case Cubs fans don't know, I'm a Cardinals fan.
Oh yeah. Also, for the record, here's a Cubs fan. You know that you have gotten to Tom because he's gone from a brazen reverse jinxing to just refusing to mention the name Chicago Cubs.
After we'll get to the tech news in just a second. I promise. My wife was laughing at me though because after the first game when Cleveland won, I saw someone with a big L flag flying, and I was laughing. She's like, "Wow, wow!" Like she didn't. It really hit her that.
Yeah, did you didn't understand the W flag or whatever?
No, she knew that. She just was stunned at how gleeful I was.
Well, you were. Well, listen, for Eileen, at least it wasn't a crying bird.
That's right. All right. US FCC passed new rules requiring ISPs to get customer permission before sharing sensitive information like location, browsing history, and app usage. A lot of criticism that these are more restrictive than what the FTC requires from companies like Google and Facebook. Speaking of Facebook adding Snapchat-like masks to Facebook Live broadcasts if you're in the US, UK, and New Zealand, and you're using iOS. Now, here are some more top stories. Oh, Twitter. Twitter said Thursday it will cut 9% of its workforce in order to cut costs and hopefully become profitable in 2017. Twitter beat analysts' expectations on their revenue, reporting Q3 revenue up 8%. So the revenue rising is slowing, but it's still rising 8% at 616 million, ahead of an expected 605.8 million. Earnings of 13 cents a share, beating an expected 9 cents a share. Total revenue grew 6% to 545 million. That's 90% from mobile at this point. Monthly active users. Remember, people were complaining like, how's Twitter going to crack mobile? Seems like they've cracked mobile. Monthly active users is the thing they haven't cracked, and it only grew 3% year over year to 317 million. In the earnings call, CFO Anthony Noto said the company is working on an event timeline, so something that could have tweets from the people you follow related to an event, things like that. Personalized tabs around things like sports teams or political parties. All of this would be powered by machine learning. CEO Jack Dorsey also said in an investor letter that Twitter has meaningful safety updates coming next month. And many of you already know this and you think I'm bearing the lead. But Twitter also said on Thursday it will discontinue the Vine app in the coming months. A source told The Verge some of the Vine staff was laid off on Thursday, part of that 9% that's going to be cut. Twitter will keep the Vine postings and the Vine website online as a memorial, I suppose, after shutting the service down.
Man, do it for the Vine, taking a very Halloween-appropriate horror overtone, huh?
Do you think they thought if they announced it an hour before the Apple press conference that it might just get shuffled away in the enthusiasm?
Equivalent of a Friday before a Monday holiday news dump.
Yeah.
I think that they knew Vine. I mean, listen, Vine is something that on Twitter is still a fairly viable, meme-worthy way of getting a message across. You know, it never really showed the kind of growth that I think they wanted it to, and it really had its lunch eaten by Instagram when they finally introduced videos, and by Snapchat for a lot of that very, very, tiny content. However, Vine still seems, at least like even today, like as we've now seen the flood of Memorial, the best of Vines kind of come back through Twitter. It still seems like there's something there. It was just never going to succeed in the silo that it was in, and with the UI that it had. The idea of it as, you almost wonder, in one of these Rick and Morty parallel universes, in a world where Vines felt more like Snapchat stories, would Vine have done better than feeling like Instagram, where it was post, something that Instagram itself is going away from with Instagram stories?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that Twitter didn't foster it more, because there's no argument that usage is way down. A lot of the Vine stars, so-called, have quit Vine and moved on to other things and are being very successful, but the platform has become moribund. So I get why they're shutting it down now, but it's still a thing that people loved, and they wanted Twitter to make it better, and they never did.
Should it have just lived in Twitter? Should the
I always found it odd that it didn't integrate more closely with Twitter, that I couldn't just open Twitter and create a Vine. That always seemed that I think that is one thing that they might have tried that they didn't.
Because that's where, I mean, so much of what you see now, and this might be also part of it, is that when you see the Vines that have explosive growth now, very often are people shooting their televisions to record something that is going on their television, which for Vine, who knows how much people want to chase down, copyright holders want to chase down copyrighted content, quote unquote, right? But in a world where the NFL is cracking down on their own team's social media accounts for posting video of the game that is happening, you could see maybe for them, it's like, well, look, NBA season's back. NBA loves Vines. Vine and NBA are things that go along very, very well together. And yet they're only a letter from Adam Silver away at any moment from that kind of being taken away from them as well. So,
I mean, it is telling that in a world where short video, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, is huge, live video is huge, that Twitter's shutting down its groundbreaking short video app.
As simultaneously during this earnings call, they're like, hey, by the way, The NFL purchase was pretty good for us. We are video. Twitter is video. I mean, no, not this video.
Not that short. Not short video.
Expensive long-form video. That is what we are in the market for. I do just want to touch on one more thing that you mentioned. The idea of machine learning tabs and events. Twitter's got a long road to hoe in terms of gaining market confidence in their ability to curate stuff. Events has been a total, third nipple of a feature for them, and I would be very curious to see where they can do something that people think is very useful straight out of the gate.
Well, and what it looks like is they're saying, okay, we tried hiring people with really good news senses to create a really well-curated events tab, a really moments tab, whatever, and it didn't work. Yeah. Let's make something that's personal to the people that says, hey, we can tell by your tweets that you're into the Republican Party or you're into the Democratic Party or Libertarian or Green Party. And so a tab's just going to show up that says your favorite party. It says Go Vikings. And then you'll click in and find all of your favorite football teams' stories in there. I think if it's done right, and that's an if, that people will find it incredibly useful to say, oh, I love these little tabs. And Twitter is very good at giving users the right amount of control. So I'm going to jump to the conclusion that they don't just suddenly populate it, that it's something that they onboard people to gracefully and you can control whether it's on or off or whatever. But if it's there and people go, wow, this is really cool. Like, these are definitely things I'm interested in. That could be a defining feature for Twitter users rather than posters. And that's I think the bottom of all of this is Twitter is trying to figure out the dance of not losing their good posters while becoming a consumption vehicle rather than a creation vehicle.
One last coda on all of this. Doesn't it kind of say, I mean, because the story a few weeks ago, Twitter, the belle of the ball, Google wants to buy them, Salesforce wants to buy them, everyone's interested in buying Twitter. All of a sudden, everybody scatters. This kind of feels like Twitter. All right, you want to know what? Maybe we were angling toward this merger thing. Maybe we counted on that. It didn't happen. Now it's time to get back on the treadmill, update the Tinder profile, put up a few new photos. Like, let's get back into shape here.
Yeah. Well, Dorsey has always been like, no, I can fix this. I can make us better. Don't sell us. And it's the board that's been the other way. So Dorsey, at least for the moment, is getting his way. There was the report yesterday that Disney is back to being interested in Twitter. That seems to have floated away on the wind in the wake of Twitter's earnings announcements. There doesn't seem to be as much heat to that light. Mark Benioff, who says things, by the way, said in an interview.
He is a serial sayer of things.
Yeah. He said in an interview that if only the board hadn't found out he was interested in Twitter, he might have got away with it. If it wasn't for those meddling kids on the board, who knows if that's actually true or not. So there are these flirtations that interest might still be out there.
But this is the thing, right? Is that let's say Dorsey does turn it around. Is there any chance that the board will let him turn it around to the point where it won't get sold? Because the more attractive it becomes, the higher the price would be for it to get sold to somebody.
That's the chess match that he's playing with his own board, it seems like.
And the fact that they're leaning it out and making it more focused. Now, we'll see whether or not what they want to focus on is something that grows the platform. But it would seem like that's where this ends. Yahoo released its first transparency report since Reuters reported Yahoo conducted an email scanning program at the request of the U.S. government. The report covers January through June of 2016. The scanning took place in spring of 2015, but Yahoo clarified it only reports on, quote, the total number of accounts, which information was produced, unquote, in the first half of 2016. Yahoo received 12,666 spooky requests from government agencies worldwide, focused on 2,511 user accounts. It disclosed content. 20,511 user accounts. It disclosed content or data on 7,779 accounts and rejected or found no data for 4,889 requests. Yahoo received 4,709 requests from the U.S. government, targeting 9,408 accounts. It disclosed content in response to 24% of the requests. Yahoo-owned Tumblr received 274 requests from governments worldwide. Now, listening to all of those numbers, did you forget about the fact that they didn't say anything about the email scanning?
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. Email scanning was in 2015. The 2015 Transparency Report didn't have a big spike. And in this transparency report, they made clear we only report when information was produced. So, yeah, okay, they haven't had a significant uptick in requests since 2015. That's the takeaway from this report. And it does imply that even if they were scanning all the emails, they didn't hand over a significant amount of information, or you'd see a huge spike in accounts.
I mean, at the background of all of this is the idea that there's only so much a company can say publicly about these kinds of programs without it being a legal problem for them, like up to and including treason. So listen, they're in a weird position here. This is something that a lot of the Silicon Valley CEOs have been vexed about, certainly since Snowden at the very least. But you know, I don't know. I mean, speaking of the soon to be married, you know, do you think that this helps or hurts the dance now between Yahoo and Verizon?
Yeah, I don't think this transparency report changes anything. I think what is most likely going on is Verizon is telling Yahoo, we still want to buy you. You've got to come down on the price, though, because we are getting goods that are damaged in a different way than we expected. And we have to deal with that.
Always looking for the bargain.
Yeah.
Verizon.
Costco Verizon, they call them.
I know. Can you hear me ask for a discount?
Good, because I want one. Tesla announced its first quarterly profit in more than 3 years, helped by nearly $139 million in sales of clean car credits. Tesla's earnings report comes ahead of the November 17th vote on the acquisition of Solar City, so they wanted to make it look good, and a lot of people are accusing them of shoving off expenses into the fourth quarter to make it look good. During the earnings call, CEO Elon Musk described his vision for a self-driving car service called Tesla Network. Now, this would be a ways in the future, but it would let Tesla owners that had self-driving cars, so obviously Tesla cars have to be allowed to be self-driving cars for this to happen, but it would allow Tesla owners to make extra money from their cars when they aren't using them. Tesla has said before they won't let people use their Teslas as Uber cars, and I guess they could do that with the terms of service somehow, or maybe they just won't let you in the Tesla network. But the idea is, in the future, when a Tesla is approved to be a self-driving car on its own, you could have that thing in your driveway during the day at work, going out making money for you, driving people around town.
So we had a very interesting conversation about this on the Weird Things podcast that I do with Andrew Main and Brian Brushwood. And I wondered, at the point that this is viable and legally and culturally, we are at least baseline cool with the idea of totally headless self-driving cars, right? So nobody else sitting in with their hands on the wheel just in case. This is like exactly what you described. I go to work at Kraft and then, you know, I let my car go make money for me. I wonder if at that point we still think of cars in the same way, that we're not, you know, that we want to spend that much money on a car that we own, and then also let it out, you know, so other people can rub their grimy little hands or do things to it that you would do in things where nobody else is watching, right? Like I'm curious. It's not that I think this is a bad idea. I think it's a very good idea. I'm just curious to see how our brains and ideas shift about car ownership.
Yeah,
at the point that this is real.
So there already are an equivalent to this with the systems that will say, we'll give you free parking at the airport if you let us rent out your car to people while you're gone on your trip. And not everybody wants to do that, but some people do. And I think that'll be the same here. Not every Tesla owner is going to want to do this. I get that. But if it shifts you over the edge, you're at the dealership and you're like, oh, gosh, you know, at I don't know what it'll be in the future when they have $45,000 for this car. That's a little bit of money, and the sales associate points out, like, yeah, but do you work 8-hour day? Would you be able to allow this to go out and drive for you during the day? We've got this amazing lockbox system to keep it nice and clean, etc. The Tesla network will insure you, etc., etc., etc.
Which, by the way, Tesla already does. If you go to buy a Tesla, Tesla will tell you a price that is not the actual price that you have to pay, because they are figuring in how much you will save on gas over a 10-year span. They will already going to do that sort of sales as it is.
Right. And so that'll push people to buy a Tesla because they want one who otherwise wouldn't be able to justify the expense.
But here's the problem that Tesla is going to face with this, because Lyft faces it now, right? It is, you need to have you need a mass of cars on the road. So when somebody opens your app, they know within 5 minutes there's a car that can get to you and bring you to where you need to go, right? Like that's just, there's the reason why Uber does not get out commercials for, hey, use our app. It's great. They buy commercials that say, hey, drive with Uber, because they need people on the road. The app in and of itself, they assume.
Got it. Yeah. So will you get enough Tesla cars?
Will you get enough? I don't know. But this is all, speaking of Benioff being a serial sayer of things.
For sure.
Elon Musk certainly puts his money where his mouth is plenty of times, as does Benioff. This is not to criticize them, but certainly part of their charm is that they will lay out their grand vision at a moment's notice.
Yeah, especially if on the earnings call, most of the analysts want to ask about the upcoming Solar City merger. You want to talk about things that'll make them want to ask about other things.
Sure. Nintendo president Tatsumi. All right, I'm gonna get killed for mispronouncing this name. How do you mispronounce, or how do
I mispronounce it as Kimishima?
Okay, so Tatsumi Kimishima told financial analysts Thursday that more information on the Switch console will come on January 12th in Tokyo. The Nintendo Switch presentation 2017 will reveal the system's launch date, pricing, and game lineup, with the playable demos available on the 13th and 14th in Tokyo. The event will be live streamed.
This is so very Nintendo in so many ways. First of all, stop asking us questions about the Switch until January 12th. That's when you're going to get more information, is part of the message here. The other is we're not going to try to do anything in the holiday season, January 12th. And the other thing is having a live stream for their fans to be able to watch the presentation has become the Nintendo tradition. I think the odd thing is that it sounds like they'll actually have people in an actual audience in Tokyo that they'll be presenting to as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great conversation last week with Beja about what their idea of, listen, you miss a holiday season, that's never ideal. They want to make sure that they launch this with the right amount of games out of the gate. I think that seems to be, hey, listen, go through all your holiday parties, gain that extra 10 pounds, and right with your New Year's resolution, you can go ahead and throw down, buy a Nintendo Switch, because they're going to want to own 2017, which is probably why watching the World Series last night, I saw 90 commercials for Red Dead Redemption 2, which comes out in a year. Yeah. This is a total side jack. Have you ever seen a game promoted like that, like a year out?
No, I kept thinking about that too, because I was like, oh yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, that's a good game. I wonder if I'll have time to play it. And then I remember, like, who knows? That's a year from now. Like, yeah.
I get the pumping the Twitter stuff, pumping online, the social media stuff, because that's where your hardcore fans are. You can drip tease them forever like they do with movies. The idea, even a movie, they're not going to be running.
No, you don't advertise a movie that far in advance. You don't. No. Even Star Wars Force Awakens.
Not a year.
I guess it was teased the Thanksgiving before it came out, so it was more than a year. But wow. Yeah, they didn't do a television campaign for it.
No, they buy primetime ads during a major sporting event.
But the other thing that this connects to is the report earlier this week that Nintendo was telling investors they expect to sell 2 million Nintendo Switches in the first quarter, which ends in March. And they have said that the Nintendo Switch will come out in March. So I think if that's what they're thinking, they expect to open pre-orders on January 12th or very soon thereafter.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Business Insider obtained documents that indicate Amazon has a grand vision. According to these documents, Amazon plans to open 20 grocery stores in the United States over the next 2 years and believes there's an opportunity to open up 2,000 Amazon Fresh stores over the next several years, over the next 20 years. Amazon Fresh pilot program stores would open by the end of 2018 in places like Seattle, Las Vegas, New York, Miami, and the Bay Area. 10 of the stores would be 10,000 square foot locations where you would just drive up and pick up orders made online, more of your your drive-through situation. The other 10 would be 30,000 square feet stores that you would go into with a shopping cart, a more traditional type. Amazon is also considering combo versions of these stores. It's unclear if Amazon Prime or Amazon Prime Fresh would be required for you to shop at these stores. The documents proposed a launch schedule of 200 stores a year, supported by new distribution centers. GeekWire has previously reported on an Amazon grocery store that seems to be under construction in Ballard, Washington. That's 25 minutes from downtown Seattle.
I am an Amazon Fresh devotee. I love Amazon Fresh. I get it probably twice a week. I very much love it and appreciate it. And unlike other Amazon physical locations, for which I've been fairly bearish on, I mean, listen, if they want to do, I think the bookstore made sense because they are in a fight with publishers and they want to give things to authors that say, hey, look, we can do everything that a publisher can do. Yeah. We'll even build our own bookstores so you can feel good about walking in and understanding that you're going to
do a book signing and get front shelf location. It's a little bit of a loss leader for Amazon, but it's a loss leader that makes sense.
But it makes sense for the war they are fighting there. This is a different beast because if you are going to be warehousing produce, but produce, perishable produce, right? Things that will go bad.
Like squid.
Exactly. Then it makes sense. The more you scale it up, the more you are going to leave yourself in the wind if all of a sudden people aren't into plum tomatoes anymore. So you want to give the biggest chance that you can always be moving that kind of produce. And that's what I think this is about. This is about the fresh element of it. And they've seen enough growth in the distribution stuff, which is what I'm a part of here in the Bay Area. But it makes sense to me for them to do this because very specifically of the product that they are selling.
Yeah, I think you're right. Amazon knows this is a very thin margin business. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's at least one or two of you out there who are in the grocery business and know the challenges that they'll face. And so they would have to consider this at scale to make it worth their while at all. It is a testament to the tenacity, the ability to risk thin profit margins, and the potential opportunity they see that they're willing to do that. I think it's fascinating.
And if it means that in the Bay Area I can get same day fresh delivery, I'll be even more excited. Because as it is now, you got to get it the day after, and sometimes
wait a day for those heirloom tomatoes.
I mean, listen, but here the prices are cheap, which is very interesting because now, Amazon to me took money out of Whole Foods pockets. I have a Whole Foods right around the corner. I don't go to Whole Foods anymore because I can get what I
that's a lot of money because Whole Foods ain't cheap.
Exactly. Verizon, remember them? They announced on Wednesday that they will acquire video service Vessel. Remember that? That's fine if you don't. It originally launched in 2015. Verizon plans to use Vessel's product and technology, but will shut down the existing service. As part of the acquisition, Vessel CTO Richard Tom will join Verizon's digital entertainment efforts in the same role. The acquisition is expected to close within 30 days. For those unaware, Vessel's business model was allowing people to subscribe to their favorite YouTube channels and see new posts a few days before they would go up on the channel itself.
Yeah, so you wouldn't subscribe to YouTube. In fact, it was a competitor to YouTube, but they would get the YouTube creators to come post their stuff to Vessel and make money off subscriptions. Jason Kilar, former CEO of Hulu, it was his brainchild to say, let me take everything I learned at Hulu and apply it to YouTube creators. And it was an interesting gambit. You could say it didn't work because it's going to get shut down, or you could say it worked great because they're selling to Verizon.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as if the business model isn't selling to Verizon. The tech, Jason Killar's team is selling to Verizon, right?
It is the thing that's going to prop up Go90, another video venture that this time from Verizon, that people wonder if there's any potential for success there. So I don't know. Jason Killar, by the way, he will go with the acquisition, but he said he won't be sticking around for very long.
Do you think that they're going to take all those deals? Like, are the deals with the creators part of it?
That is a very good question. Obviously, they're not taking the deals as they exist because they're shutting down the service.
Yeah.
Will they be able to leverage this to bring some of those creators to Go90? I would imagine that's part of the attractiveness of this deal.
We shall see.
Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. Submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. All right, folks. Many of you have been waiting to hear us talk about the Apple stuff. Others of you have been waiting so that you could stop listening because we're talking about the Apple stuff. So make your exchanges now. Basically, two big announcements. They're bringing a new app to Apple TV called the TV app. This seems to be the thing they wanted to launch with a live television service that Apple has never been able to come together. So instead, it's an app that brings together all your apps on Apple TV and makes them easily accessible by show in one interface. Now, they have HBO Now, they have Showtime on board. They don't seem to have Netflix on board as yet. The bigger announcement was, of course, new MacBook Pros. And the big attractive feature of the new MacBook Pros was the touch bar. This replaces the function keys across the top and changes based on the software, so it can surface menu items that you'd otherwise have to right-click to get to, certain controls. They made a big deal with Photoshop and Final Cut, how you'd be able to do editing with, the capacitive touch, the multi-touch sliding things around. You can imagine that in a video timeline, or being able to reposition a photo. Touch bar is a retina display. It's multi-touch, responds to gestures and taps. And Apple has added Touch ID to the right of the touch bar. So you can actually turn on your computer with your fingerprint, and it will automatically log you in. They showed off a lot of programs using this, but it is, of course, up to the third-party apps to implement both the Touch ID and the Touch Bar. Although Microsoft Office is apparently going to do Touch Bar, as is Skype.
Tom, do you want to touch my Touch Bar?
Let's just get that out of the way right now. Yeah, this is rife with amusing anecdotes because it's called the Touch Bar for many, many reasons. And we made some of them in our patron Slack this morning. The fact of the matter is, this touch bar looks really interesting. Roger and I were talking before the show that it feels a little like, you showed us this, I like it. Your argument that the function keys, date back to the 70s and aren't needed anymore is good. The fact that I can actually press the function key, which is sticking around, that FN key in the bottom left, and get the function keys back if I need them for some reason is good. I'm all in on the touch bar. They spent way more time talking about the touch bar than was necessary to convince me, to the point where I was like, okay, you guys, I get it. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as you think it's going to be, but it's all right. Honestly, all they had to do, Justin, was tell me, we have new laptops available with larger hard drives, more Core i7 processors, and a good amount of RAM. And honestly, that was all I needed. Touch Bar is interesting. I'm good that they have Thunderbolt 3 in there because that allows USB-C, which means it's future-proof because it's the same port. But yeah, this is not a stunning laptop, but when you've gone 4 years between updates, it's a pretty good update.
I mean, well, because that's the thing, is that ultimately if you are a power user and you prefer the Mac ecosystem, this is just a thing that is long overdue, right? And it seems as if, based on how much time they spent on the touch bar, that part of the reason why this has been delayed so long is, I would take a wild guess, that internally they've been agonizing over one thing: touch screens. What should be interactive? What should not? And what appears to have happened is that Apple, the company that really popularized multi-touch touchscreens on a level that we had not previously seen with the kind of popularity that it had with the iPhone and the iPad, has decided that when it comes to a laptop, you should not be smudging up this, retina display with your grubby little mitts. Instead, it would be more functional if everything happened at the keyboard level. And even all the functionality of a touchscreen, the fact that it changes, it can mean different things, it is responsive to the app that you're using, that should be closer to your fingers, and the activator should be the touchpad below it, as opposed to what's happening right up there. And that, to me, is what their whole "this has gone on too long" by your accounts running up and down to this was them litigating that case, that they know that this is going to be the conversation, is that Surface has the touchscreen, we do not. And this is why. We want to show you in intricate detail why on every, and to me, it was no clearer than in the Photoshop, where it was like, look, here's an image. If your hand is in front of the image, you are not doing the same kind of professional work that you can do on this, where all of your tools are right there, where you would normally be interacting with a laptop. So that's what I found most fascinating about specifically how long they took on that.
And that two-handed approach was one of the few times where during the demonstration I looked up and said, okay, that's a use case I hadn't anticipated and I like it, where you could use the touchpad, which by the way is twice as big as the trackpad had been on the previous Mac generation, to do things on Photoshop while you're using the touch bar to control sizes and things like that. That is a very natural two-handed way to do something that I think is pretty clever. At the same time, it's not the same as a touchscreen. They're basically just saying you don't want to touch your screen on a laptop. And maybe they're right. Apple tends to be right about those things that we think we want that maybe we don't. But they are definitely putting their flag in the ground and saying no touchscreens for laptops, while Microsoft and everyone else are saying absolutely touchscreens in laptops. That's what people want. So here we go with another one of those battles to fight out and find out who's right. The other interesting thing about this announcement was we see them throwing shade on their own MacBook Air. There is now only one 13-inch MacBook Air available, starts at $999. They did not introduce a new MacBook Air. They introduced a new MacBook Pro that doesn't have the touch bar and made a big deal about how this cheaper 13-inch MacBook Pro is way thinner and lighter than the MacBook Air.
I think that's the final gong for the Air, right? Is that the idea of, we're going to sell you this. Hey, guess what, guys? It's the super thin and light laptop, as was so well evidenced by Steve Jobs coming out with the manila envelope and his a Grinch like grin on his face as he pulled it out so eloquently. We're done with that. I think Apple wants to be out of that. From here on out, all the most powerful laptops are the lightest laptops, and they want to collapse that vertical a little bit.
And as far as the MacBook Pros go, Radeon Pro GPU in the 15-inch and i7, 16 gigs of RAM. The 13-inch you can get with i5 or i7, 8 gigs of RAM. They're both light. 13 inches, 3 pounds. 15 inches, 4 pounds. And the thing that I think probably will cause some discussion out there is they just went with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports on these. Now, there's also that cheaper 13-inch MacBook Pro that doesn't have the touch bar, has the regular function keys. That one has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. But they basically said Thunderbolt 3 is our way future, because you can plug a USB-C cable into it without an adapter, and that's where everyone is going. That's true across the board. And Thunderbolt 3 can support, with an adapter, DisplayPort, HDMI, etc. The one thing they're losing is the SD card slot, but you can get an adapter that goes SD card slot into Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C and be just fine.
And a headphone jack, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. No, bury the lead, huh? 3.5 millimeter headphone jack sticking around, folks. Yeah.
They're like, hey, listen, we got more space. We got more space on this boat. You know,
That's going to be an interesting dance. They're going to get rid of that headphone jack on the laptop. Is my prediction.
Of course, yeah.
It may not be next year. It may be the year after, but they are going to. And how do they do the dance of going from Lightning headphones to USB-C headphones? Because those ports need an adapter to be able to interact.
I think that they're hoping that in the next 2 years, we are just inundated.
We're just wireless.
Good Bluetooth.
Maybe they'll ship the AirPods at some point that are now delayed.
I mean, theoretically, right? I've actually found myself kind of excited about the AirPods. I kind of want the AirPods in my life, and I can't buy them. But listen, Beats Audio just rolled out a huge Christmas-timed lineup with a star-studded ad for all of the various USB solutions Bluetooth solutions that they're going to have coming forward. I think for Apple, at the rate that they refresh these things, they're saying that, listen, the next time we touch these is either going to be in 2 years or in 3 years. And at that point, all the best headphones are going to be Bluetooth, and we'll probably be giving away Bluetooth headphones with our, we'll have the ear pods, the AirBuds, Golden
AirPods.
We'll have those with the iPhone at that point, so it'll be less of an issue.
Yeah, maybe. Apple also used an LG 5K display to demonstrate how the 15-inch MacBook Pro could run two 5K displays at once. Phil Schiller called the LG display the ultimate docking station, also indicating that Apple's not in the marketplace to put out a brand new Cinema display anytime soon.
So do you think that this is officially the end of forever? I mean, and you've been at this game for a long time, Tom, but the Apple TV, not the box.
Oh, the television set. Yeah.
That was always tied to the fact that they had great pride in their cinema displays. I feel like we're done. Like, we can officially throw the last handful of dirt on that rumor, right?
Yeah, I never really bought that they wanted to create an actual television. And maybe they considered it, but it just never felt right to me. Apple TV as a device that you can plug into whatever you want seems like a better bet for them. And it is kind of, today is the sad ending of that television dream, right? There's no live service. They finally put out the TV app, but it just kind of works with some apps. Yeah, and there's no television. In fact, there's no cinema display. They're up there with an LG 5K display.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's. You want to move on to the TV thing?
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick as our last bit. It's a nice app. It's a little confusing. I was trying to explain it to Eileen earlier today. She's like, "So it's an app that launches other apps? Why do I need that? I just want to go into the app." And I'm like, "Well, the convenience is." If you watch shows in HBO Now and Hulu and CBS All Access, then which we do actually, then it will have all those shows in one interface. So you just launch the TV app, and it'll say, "Hey, new Mindy Project is on Hulu. Oh, and there's the new Star Trek over there on CBS All Access, and the latest Game of Thrones is up on HBO Now. Which one do you want to watch?" You'll see all your shows together. For that to work, that works great. I love that. I love that as a kind of a front-end interface. This is that universal search where I have to stop thinking about which service I'm subscribed to and just watch the shows I want to watch. It's got to have Netflix. In fact, and it's got to have Sling TV, and it's got to have Amazon, and it might get those first two I mentioned. It's not getting Amazon.
Well, I mean, at some point we're going to find out whether or not Nixon can go to China on that, right? Like, that there's I think that eventually there's some world in which Apple and Amazon can come to an agreement on money, because primarily this is about Amazon works on incredibly thin margins. They are fierce about the price that they are going to look to pay to their partners. Apple is fierce about holding the line on things. I think that there is eventually a deal that can be made there. But let's focus on what you said earlier. I really like my Apple TV. I understand that Apple, and I don't blame them, does not want to be beholden to the absolute crap nuts UI that comes in on every service that pops up every 5 seconds. Because, by the way, we have not yet begun to enter the world of I watch my entertainment on a million different apps. I found out the other day on Sling TV that I have ABC. I didn't even realize it because it's at the end of my little live guide thing. Like it's just that they want you to be able to interact with your apps in a way that isn't insanely confusing. Because if people like who are listening to this show find it confusing and find it hard to find exactly what they want, or for me, listen, I root for the Syracuse Orange. They're not a good football team. I don't know whether or not it's on television, let alone on a service that I get in my cord-cutting lifestyle. If I have an easy way, as they demonstrated, to just say, hey, put on the Syracuse Orange.
Yeah, you can just ask Siri that very question, and it will now respond.
And it'll go, now we're kind of cooking. And I know that there are similar things on Roku and everything, but Apple wants to be the place where everybody comes to play. They want to you have the future be apps, but they don't want you to have to forage through whatever random UI decisions these entertainment companies, not computing companies, decide to make, and they want to give it to you in an easier way. I think it's good, but, and here's the, I like big butts, and I cannot lie, this needs Amazon, or sorry, this needs Netflix 110%. I was kind of surprised that it didn't launch with it.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think what Apple looks at, it says, well, you can fill in the gaps with iTunes, right? We're going to have iTunes Store on there, so you can buy the shows you can't get because the app isn't there. You aren't going to want to buy Netflix shows from iTunes because Netflix is on your Apple TV, but not integrated into the TV. So that deal has to happen for this to not be dead on arrival. Let's get to our pick of the day from Mike Kepper, DTNS analyst in Heron, Illinois. Has an app that shows you what cellular network you're using on Project Fi, if you're a Google Project Fi subscriber, and shows you the strength. Same for Wi-Fi networks. You can use it to switch to a better signal. If you're like, hey, wait a minute, you selected T-Mobile, but it looks like Sprint has a better signal here. Mike says he used to use it for that a lot in the early days of Project Fi, but it has gotten better at selecting the stronger signal these days. It's available on the App Store. You can go and take a look. We'll have a link in the show notes. It's called Signal Spy.
That's great.
Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. By the way, in case you didn't know, we do a show called Daily Tech Headlines, dailytechheadlines.com. All the headlines, all the essential news of the day in less than 10 minutes for folks who just want to keep up on all the stuff. Some people listen to it and Daily Tech News Show because we take slightly different approaches. Other people just use it when they fall behind. But you can now get it on your Amazon Echo as a flash briefing.
Be careful, Tom. Be careful. We've gotten bad reviews because we've been triggering these things. Be careful about how you say this.
I'm not going to say the trigger word for Amazon Echo, but if you say your trigger word, whatever it is for your Amazon Echo, and then the words enable Daily Tech Headlines skill, that's all you need to do. Daily Tech Headlines is installed, and I'll tell you the headlines every day in less than 10 minutes. Big thanks to Sergeant Muffin and BioCow who helped out on this, and huge thanks to Tinvec, a.k.a. Alex Hanna, in our audience who coded the skill and shepherded it through Amazon's development tool. Also, shout out to Becky at Amazon who helped us out there as well.
Oh, my God, Becky. Let me just say this. Tom, in the pre-show, he said the words.
I said the word.
That we're not gonna say here.
She who must not be named.
It was so easy that it automatically loaded on my Amazon Echo that is right here in the studio.
From hundreds of miles away.
From hundreds of miles away. In fact, I almost feel like you should just say it at the very end of the show. You should just, so you could just turn up the volume and just
y'all just say it, the word, and then enable Daily Tech Headline skill. That's all you got to say.
That's all you got to say. It's very easy.
Justin Robert Young, what you got going on?
Oh, geez. I'll tell you what. We've actually had a really interesting run of shows on the Politics podcast. We had a little interview with, or actually, no, it was a real debate between your friend and your friends and mine, Brian Brushwood and Jeff Kanata. If you're familiar with their work from either DLC and Totally Rad Show and everything else that Jeff does, or for Brian with Night Attack and Scam School and Modern Rogue, and you follow them on Twitter, you'll understand that they like to go back and forth with these very lengthy political discussions that are usually a little bit more heady than necessarily I like this candidate, I like this candidate. It's a lot about whether you should vote. It's morally okay to not vote. When is abstaining okay? What is a crisis that needs an immediate reaction? That kind of stuff. So I decided, you want to know what? Let's just go ahead and push the couches back and let these boys settle it once and for all. So we brought them both on the Politics podcast. I was the moderator, and I think it was a really, really, really great discussion. I mean, I have very specific ideas on my personal philosophy on voting and stuff, and I heard arguments that I had never really heard before out of both guys who I've talked to about these issues before. So I'm very proud of that. It's in the politics feed. It's politics.com if you want to get it. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking to my BitTorrent News colleague, ? In italics. Who knows whether or not there's still a BitTorrent News. We'll keep you updated on that. But Michael Shore, who covered the conventions with me for BitTorrent News, is going to come on, and we're going to talk everything elections. He is somebody that is so plugged in, so smart, and has such a great historical mind for this stuff. I'm very excited to kind of look back on maybe one of the wildest presidential elections we've ever had.
Thank you to everybody who supports Daily Tech News Show. There's so many ways to do it. dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Big welcome to brand new patron Kenny Roderick. And huge thanks to Gary Ludwig, Carolyn Haynes, and Adam Burke, who all raised their pledge. You guys are the best, as are every single one of our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Boom. Good show.
Yeah.
But what should we call it?
Let's go ahead and see Shabbat.
Roger Chang, show me
End
Showbot.
of the vine.
Yes, we can hear you.
Ooh, praise the Lord. Pass the ammo. End of the vine. Get it? Get it?
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, but that's an end of the line pun, right? I mean, like, shouldn't like dying on the vine or death on the are there?
I mean, it's end of the line for Vine, but they are also dying on the vine.
Withering on the vine. I don't know. Want to go to the touch bar? That's uncomfortable. Your 6 seconds of fame died on the vine. Withered on the vine was the fourth one. Amazon gets fresh in 20 cities.
BioCow is amazing. I don't know if it would even be like, that's almost like false advertising to talk as much as we did about the MacBook, all the Apple announcements, and Vine, and the headline would be Amazon Fresh coming.
Is Apple in touch with its users? Twitter killed the Vine star. Let me see. Wait, Twitter's third nipple? Not sure.
Yeah, Justin called it.
Yeah, that was my reference to moments.
Stop vining. How do you mispronounce? Verizon sees the vessel as half full.
She seems to have a digital touch bar.
Looking for. I like Netflix and I cannot buy.
You can buy. You just can't add it to.
She seems to have a digital touch bar.
I don't know. End of the Vine seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Although
want to go to the touch bar is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say, Tom, you should make. But what is ultimately the bigger story? Vine dying, or
well, yeah, I think it's one of those two. I think honestly we could go either way. I think if we want to go crassly for attention, it's Apple. It's always Apple. Apple will always get you more people looking at your things. But if you want to go like evaluative on what did we dig into and what was big news, arguably Vine is a bigger news than Apple. We knew Apple was going to announce MacBooks, and they did.
Yeah.
So I consider them kind of even. If I had to pick, if you're putting me up against the wall and saying which topic, I'd pick Apple just because more people will look.
So touch bar. Want to go to the touch bar?
I don't know. That's so creepy.
Yeah. I wanna go to the touch bar. I've got a touch bar for you.
Is Apple in touch with its users? Is not a question we asked, but does cleverly.
I think they wanted to add the touch.
Yeah. It does cleverly work in touch.
The one thing I will say about the touch bar is the first time in a while that I've watched an Apple announcement and I've been like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
that looks.
Yeah,
that
even though
looks-
we saw that leak from macOS Sierra, still seeing it in action, I was like, oh, yeah, I can see that.
It was cool for the first maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then they just was beating a dead horse. Like, we get it. It's useful, has functionality. What else can you tell us about this amazing machine that you've carved out of a single block of aluminum ore?
I mean, I feel like, but that's a very Roger Chang like review.
Well, but I mean, there were so,
we got it. Wrap it up.
no, it's like, you know, they could have done so much more. For example, with the Thunderbolt 3, right? Other than just showing up slides, it's like, listen, now you have a port that allows you to literally plug anything into it, you know, with an adapter. You don't have to like, oh, I don't have that port. And I mean, there was so much to that.
Yeah, I think they undersold the future-proofness of it.
Or how,
they did the whole Schiller thing, right? That was the whole point of the like, hey, well, let's plug in 2 gigantic displays plus.
Yeah, I guess so.
RAID array stuff like that was. I think that was.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but you know, I guess so. But really, what they should have done is, hey, look, it's a notebook that can serve as your main content creation machine when you get to the office. Plug into this dock, everything lights up like the Human Torch. When you're done, you stick in your courier bag, and you can finish up emails or do some light editing on the subway. I mean, it just I don't know. It just seemed a lot of time was dedicated to the touch bar because
the touch bar is going to go. It's going to be a lead story on television news. It's going to be on the front page of newspapers. Like, but when they have those events, instead of just announcing them or having them done very quietly, it's because they want randos to look at a big flashy thing and say, wow, big flashy things. I love that.
And you know how I'm going to describe that to anyone over the age of 65? It's like, think of it kind of like a ticker tape stock market thing. And then, yeah, you can have buttons that go with it. I mean, it's cool, but it's also not as game changing as I think that Apple makes it out to be. I mean, it's great and it's awesome, but it's at the same time, it's really just visually replacing what you used to use the function keys for, other than being able to do the multi-touch.
Sure. I mean, I think that there is a little bit of a difference, especially in its ability to scroll and like the idea.
Yeah, well, they were really stretching the usage scenarios as well. I mean, you're not DJing with that little bit of technology. Like you're going to get out some giant, turntable interfaces that you plug in, because if your livelihood is like rocking the house, you're not going to be doing these 2 things with like,
I don't know, man. I have seen quite a few DJ setups that are literally just a laptop. Yeah. Like I don't think that's. I mean, like that's necessarily.
And I'm sure they macro out keys on the laptop, so they're not literally going. I mean, look at how many things he had to go through just to get to the one thing he wanted.
I mean, dude, I'm not saying that they're not stretching out to show every ounce of possibility in the touch bar, and I think that is.
You know what? The one thing they didn't do, they should have showed it paired with a Apple Watch, and then like a little EKG meter on it. Dun 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 dun. So you can tell you're still alive when you're working on your MacBook.
I mean, well, I think.
I'm such a jerk. What
is very interesting about it though is that idea of like, okay, they don't like touchscreens on laptops. Like it was like it's been one of those things that as they've shown up everywhere else, it's been almost conspicuous by the absence for Apple, considering the fact that, I mean, hell, they look, a MacBook monitor looks like an iPad, right? Like it looks like it should be an iPad. It has that same like kind of a feeling to it. So I think it was, you're right, it's not game changing, but it is them officially kind of saying, no, we walk down this path now. If you want a touchscreen, congratulations. We make the best touchscreen. They're called iPads. If you want more power, it's an iPad Pro.
They definitely want to keep the rigid markers between other product lines because they need you to have a reason to buy both of those, right? Not just one or the other.
Apple doesn't worry about cannibalization, though. I think
they just killed the MacBook Air.
Yeah, I think there's something else going on where they look at it and they legitimately say, we could put a touchscreen in there, but if we did, we'd have to sacrifice these other elements or raise the price too far, and we don't think it's worth it. If it was worth it, they would do it. I think they look at it and they say, people think they want touchscreens, but they don't really. This is a different use case. If you want a touchscreen, get an iPad. You can put a keyboard on it if you really want. That's the use case for a touchscreen. The laptop is still a valid use case. That's my guess on how they look at it.
Yeah, I think that they look at it like if you want a touchscreen so bad, you don't want a laptop. You might think you want a laptop, but that's a vestige of a bygone era. You just want a tablet.
Yeah. And I go back and forth because I have a Surface Book Pro, and every once in a while it's pretty cool that I can pull that thing off and use it as a tablet, but every once in a while probably isn't enough to justify the power consumption issues and the price that I had to pay for it and this and that. So I go back and forth because it is pretty handy, and I do wish that my Mac would do the same thing sometimes. I get in the habit of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's curious that they've
look to the children. They touch your MacBooks all the time, thinking
they
should
do.
Be a touchscreen.
My kid touches the TV, thinking it does something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could do this on your phone, and then she just touches the TV. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
you got.
Although I also think that the MacBook Pro, they want it to be the professional's machine, right? Like that is their their use case for it. And I think what they sold each time is like vocations. Are you a graphic designer? You want the touch bar.
Yeah.
Are you a video editor? You want the touch bar. Because this is, touch screen's a gimmick. This is a tool.
And I think that Microsoft did a better job of that yesterday.
Yes. No, I was about to say that.
Apple's pitch there was a little old-fashioned. It felt like all we have to do is show you a few programs and you get it. And Microsoft did a great job of saying, you're a creator, you want to do all these different kinds of things, here's how the Surface and the Surface Studio can help you do that. Or Windows 10 Creators Update can help you do that.
Well, but also the onus is on Microsoft a little bit more with that sphere. Because
they're motivated to make a comeback. Yeah, definitely.
So, I think for Apple, they're just like, hey,
no, we're creative.
I mean, yeah, do you want to write it off on your taxes or do you not? Just go ahead and buy it.
Like, come on.
Pro in the name. It's just like Home Depot Pro. When you buy lumber from there, you can you deduct it.
By the way, there was a moment today watching it. So I'm watching it on my Apple TV, right? I've got my Apple Watch on. I've got my iPhone 7 with me. That I'm waiting for the day that when they do that big price announcement, right? And it's available now. And if you look right now on your iPhone, we have blasted out a message because we know you're watching on your Apple TV. And if you have the app installed there, you have the app installed on your phone, you can just literally press one button and have it coming to your house in the next 2 days. Like, I'm waiting for that moment where they make just one click buying when everybody is literally at their frothiest watching the watching those things.
It's kind of like an auction. Like, oh, I gotta get one now. Click.
Well, and that was fun. That was kind of an interesting point when they sort of brought in that third MacBook Pro that doesn't have the touch bar to say, hey, this one pretty much replaces a MacBook Air. And by the way, you can have this one shipping to you today. You can order it today and have it shipped today. Whereas the other ones are going to take 2 to 3 weeks because they're new.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just know that one's going to be a killer, right? And so it's like, whatever, we'll just tack that on at the end. And because we know that when people who just hear about this that go to apple.com, so many of them are going to pick it because, people need the touch bar sold to them. They don't need.
Why do I need to pay extra for the touch bar? Yeah.
Then they can get to use up the rest of the components they bought to crank out airs.
Well, and it goes back to what I was saying about all they needed to do was put out a new laptop, really. And that's kind of what that model is. It's like, hey, and if you're like Tom Merritt saying all we need to do is put out a new laptop, here you go. Here's a new laptop.
Who says we don't listen to you?
It's amazing how quickly the laptop has become kind of the mainstream computing device, replacing the desktop. Like before, like if you were serious about doing something, you would get a desktop, and now it's just the laptop.
What's your favorite Vine of all time, guys?
Twizzlers.
Twizzler Vine? No, so not red vines?
Oh, red vines. Yes, red vines. I don't do candy much.
No, he's talking about Twitter, the Vine.
Oh. I don't know. Something funny with a dog, I guess.
I can't think of one. I honestly can't think of the last time I even looked at Vine.
They're so ephemeral. It's like you don't ever remember them. Remember them.
There are two that immediately popped into my head. There's the one of Chris Christie when he had first endorsed Donald Trump.
Uh-huh.
And Donald Trump is talking, and they just kind of slowly zoom in on him while the Curb Your Enthusiasm music starts playing. That one I continuously find amazing. And the one that I tweeted out, which I think is just the best Vine of all time, is a supercut of one of Alex Jones's rants about Donald Trump charging into a goblin's nest, which I don't even want to. I don't think I should even say what he mentions, but find it on my Twitter. But made by Gawker, the Vine made by Gawker. How young we were back when both of them existed.
Remember the mid-teens when you could watch Vine on Gawker?
Yeah, when Gawker was in the Vine.
Those are the days. It was days of Vine and Gawker. Man, yeah, those just suddenly this year became defining elements of the early part of this decade.
Yeah, it's one of those. We are in winter is coming, Tom.
Yeah,
winter is coming.
Some people have lived all their life with Vine. They've grown up with it. Yeah, we're steaming towards the latter half of this decade, and I still don't know what the last decade's defining characteristics were. Is that just because I'm getting old? Like, they all just seem to blend now. I like the 90s is the last thing I can put my finger on.
I mean, this is really, the last decade seems like it began with 9/11 and it ended with Obama. Like the election.
The election, yeah. Uh-huh. Right. It's the Bush decade. Like the Reagan years were for the 80s. Yeah.
Recession, war. Like, I think that's where, but you also got the kind of the beginnings of really, this industry, the tech industry becoming, where was post-first.com boom, right? The idea that Silicon Valley was really just like the most talked about influential economic sector of America seemed like a more dubious thing than it does now, when it's like, no, there's like gigantic generational wealth here that like, even as, these Web 1.0 companies, sure, they're beleaguered, right? Like, Yahoo is trying to still gussy themselves up so a cell phone company will buy them, but it's like, it's a gigantic company. It's a massive, massive, massive company. So I think that's really the big, it was war economic hardship
Uh-huh.
and Apple things.
Can we look back at and say, oh, that those clothes are so 2000s? Yeah. Like
No, but you really need to be 2 decades out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It took a while for the 90s to really
Now we
define
can pick
itself.
out 90s clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
Very puffy and flannelly and yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was but that's weird because I feel like we could have picked out 80s clothes in the 90s.
Oh,
But maybe
yeah.
Because 80s clothes were just so ridiculous.
They were over the top.
Yeah.
80s hairstyles kind of bled into the 90s more than I thought. I've been watching Twin Peaks, which is 91, and it's like, wow, yeah, that hair is still.
Well,
pretty...
there's also the rumor that decades also, or not a rumor. There's a theory that culturally decades really begin on the 5s. So 95
like the defining
to 05
characteristics
make more sense than and 05 to 15 make more sense. 85 and 95.
I mean, it's all perceptual anyway, right?
I mean, it's all nonsense.
Yeah. All of you are just a part of my imagination anyway.
Oh my God. Speaking of that idea, anybody else read the Patton Oswalt New York Times thing? Man, it's pretty depressing, but it's poetic. Talks all about how he's been doing since his wife died, how he found his wife, found out his wife. Here's how heartbreaking. She had been working on this book because she wrote true crime books, right?
Okay.
She'd been working on this book about a dude who murdered a bunch of people in California and felt that she was very close to finding out who he was, that he was still alive and was close to finding out who he was and became obsessive about it. She started to have some health issues, she felt like really tired. So Patton Oswalt tells her, hey, you need one of those nights where you just sleep until you wake up. Like, don't worry about anything. I'll take the kid to school. You just go to sleep and we'll take care of it in the morning. No pressure. Don't wake up at a certain time. So, he wakes up early, takes the kid to school, sees her still sleeping and snoring. When he leaves, when he comes back, she's still snoring, goes into his office, does a few radio interviews for something, answers some emails, and then comes back to check on her. Non-responsive, medics come, pronounced dead immediately. But just harrowing. Read it if you want to feel sad. But I don't know why I wanted to end the show on that.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I know, I'm a dick.
Hey, everybody, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.
All right, see y'all.